Champion Green webinar, Changes in the Air, Ready to Reopen. This morning, we will look at two very separate aspects of business reopening. One from a motivational perspective, looking at the significance of being mentally prepared, and the other discussing the practical e-commerce solutions that will dominate the future of so many sectors, including consumer retail. I'm your host, Sven. I'm with the Small Firms Association, and the two expert speakers joining me today are business coach and mentor Joseph Costello and John O'Connor of Click and Collection, whose innovative e-commerce platform has supported hundreds of SMEs in trading through the pandemic. Before we get stuck in, just a bit of housekeeping. The recording of our session today will be on the Champion Green website from early next week and also on social media. I'd like to make the session as interactive as possible, so please do pop your questions into the chat box and we'll do our best to answer them. And of course, a big thank you to the Kilkenny Design, Bennett and PR team for organizing our webinar today, and also a big thank you to Brendan and Kevin, our webinar technicians this morning. John O'Connor, may I start with you? Your platform, Click and Collection, provides everything a small business needs to do to showcase their offering online and to transact sales. How exactly does that work, John?
Hi, Sven. Yeah, thank you for asking a question. I guess maybe if I can give you a little bit of history, the goal and the ambition for Click and Collection was to help small businesses survive through what we initially thought was going to be a short shock. And so the business was set up and a platform was developed in order to help small and medium-sized businesses get trading online as quickly and as simply as possible, without the need to be an expert in e-commerce and without the requirement to build a dedicated e-commerce platform. We provide that to it. So the goals, the initial goals, I guess, were captured in three words. It needed to be simple, it needed to be fast to deploy, and it needed to be secure. So if I can dive into just those 3 points for maybe a second to explain them a little bit. The simplicity, understanding that our customers are merchants whose core business is running their business. They're not technicians, they're not developers. So when we developed the platform, it needed to be possible to be set up by the owner manager of a business. Does that make sense?
It makes complete sense, yeah.
And I guess building on speed is building on that simplicity. We wanted to ensure that our customers could be up and running in a matter of hours. I think that we now have that down to a matter of minutes, that within 30 minutes or 40 minutes, we can have a customer going from not trading online to up and being able to take orders and schedule collections within 40 minutes. And then the third element around security, we all know how important security is on transactions, and it's fundamental to trading online. So we needed to make sure that we could offer an absolute end-to-end solution for our customers, the merchants, and also for their customers, the consumers.
And what does that look like then? So once a small business, a restaurant for argument's sake, decides I just need to do more online, it's just not enough for me to have my menu on my Instagram page together with the phone number, but I just want to be more out there, more visible. And do they have their own domain then, or is it more like Just Eat and they're part of the Click and Collection group of businesses that you have on your platform?
Yeah, that's a great question. So maybe I can walk through the 4 steps that's required from not being engaged to right the way through to trading, and then I can talk through some of those details. It literally is 4 steps. So it's a case of going to clickandcollection.com, registering your business, and once you've done that, you're in a position to list your products there and then, right? So you create your own menu pages, you create, but it's so intuitive and simplistic to be able to drag and drop images of your products and your range of products onto the menu page. You then attach your Stripe account, enabling you to take secure online payments. And once you've done those 2 or those 3 steps, you're ready to get trading online. There's a raft of inbuilt features that different complex or simpler retailers can leverage as you develop your online presence, right the way through to plugging into your POS, plugging into your inventory, et cetera, et cetera. So the steps of getting online are very simple. In terms of the URL, it's you have your own domain as part of the click and collection group. Does that make sense?
So you're able then, so for argument's sake, O'Shea's restaurant will have a domain, their own visibility, but obviously they're part of your platform, but they can use the URL that is generated through your system to proactively promote their business.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Tell me, in our little pre-chat, you spoke about that how much you like data and of facts and figures you have gleaned from looking at the US market, who are slightly more ahead in terms of the vaccination program. And if you look at the global and local trends that have shown over the last months how retail and services have migrated online, do you think this is going to last, or do you think once we are hopefully from June, July, August able to be a bit more outside and resume part of the life that we're used to, do you think we revert back to our old default decision would be more bricks and mortar, or do you think online and this trend online is going to stay, or is it going to be a hybrid? What's your take?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had a crystal ball to look in and to answer all of those questions. I think there's a couple of things. I think, first of all, you know, the shift to online was happening. And what's happened is we've seen a massive acceleration in that shift to online. So, you know, there are numerous different metrics around that. I think that one that jumped out at me was in the first half of 2020, we saw the equivalent of 5 years of growth of online take place in that first 6 months. I think that what we're seeing is that even when non-essential retail in the UK reopened, footfall was down. And perhaps that was an early indicator that some of the shifts in consumer behavior were starting to stick. Yeah. And then if we look a little bit deeper into some of those significant shifts, yeah, just let me find it. I think it's in the US, the propensity to go back to previous behavior has been very slow. So there are still concerns around that hygiene, around that safety issue. So what we're seeing out of the US is that behaviors that shifted are remaining. Yeah, so yes, so I think in short, I hope I'm getting to the answer. I think it will be a hybrid, but I think that what we're seeing is not going to go away.
I think that is backed what you say by data that's being published today by .ie, the Irish Domain Registry, who've done research on consumer behavior now and anticipated consumer behavior, where they see a number of trends emerging, obviously because of Champion Green, the shop local trend as well, and you know, obviously because of the 5 kilometer radius that we have, that helps the situation. Secondly, this uncertainty and insecurity, obviously in relation to how safe is my environment going to be once we reopen, and hesitance to go back and mingle and to go back to bricks and mortar shops. And then thirdly, obviously, what happened over the last 12 months should have only happened over the last 5 to 10 years. So this accelerated development will lead to a situation where certain trends that have emerged over the last 12 months are here to stay, as in it won't be reversed. So that's really interesting to see. What I'm interested to see, you know, you probably have hundreds of small businesses that have signed up to your platform, and what data do you see? What from this on a more micro level? What makes the most successful businesses that use your platform?
Yeah, I mean, so So the platform is really built for anybody in the retail space, right? I guess some of the high adoption we've seen is around that hospitality, and particularly around restaurants, as well as broader food outlets. And if I dig a little bit into the restaurant space, and if I dig into that sort of mid to high end restaurant, I can give you some information what we've seen around consumer behavior over the last 6 or 7 months. Does that help? What we've seen specifically, if we look at the takeaway and we look at the trend across that, what we're seeing is the average basket value is increasing week on week and month on month. Overall, the sales on the platform are increasing every single solitary week, indicating that more and more people are coming on the platform. And then from the merchant's perspective, the average basket value is increasing week on week. And so when we look at the consumer behavior behind that, it seems that there's a shift in that brand loyalty as well, right? So they're continuing with the suppliers and the restaurateurs that they are familiar with, but there's also a part of experimentation where they move beyond that loyalty. Or not that they move beyond that loyalty, but they're open to experiment a little bit more, yeah. And I think that's an opportunity for retailers as well. Is as people become more experimental, that if you make sure that your product is resonating and available to them, that they will try it. So the two key shifts are we're seeing higher consumption and we're seeing increased basket value.
And are there any trends emerging where you see, well, this is a business category, this is a type of business that is more successful than others because they're using the tools and that you offer more effectively? Can you distinguish between businesses that are doing okay and businesses that are doing better than others using your platform?
You know, there's such a diverse range of customers, it's difficult to sort of highlight those. I think what's very interesting is to watch how some of our merchants have really pivoted their business. Okay, and I've seen, when I step back and I see what they've seen is they've seen a shift in catchment area, which is very interesting. So maybe it's a little bit broader. Maybe people are prepared to travel a little bit further for premium. I also think that there's a shift in efficiencies. You know, if you think of some of the business models where they're actually able to put a product out there a number of weeks in advance and test appetite for that product and actually pre-sell that product. So think of meal kits, think of special event meal kits, pre-sell that product almost before they have to go and buy the ingredients. And so they can cook to demand. Does that make sense? Which
yes, yeah.
Massively drives down that wastage and drives up efficiencies.
Toby, last question for me before we try and answer some of the questions coming through here. Now, as we are preparing for the reopening, hopefully also from a retail perspective, the permission of click and collect for the so-called non-essential retailers. What would be your top advice to a retailer or indeed a service provider planning their post-COVID future? What is essential to get right?
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard, and I don't want to sound it's so basic, but I think that really understanding where the consumer is right now. Okay, and what those consumers are looking like and what's resonating with the consumers, you know, so I would say get online. I would say make sure that you're looking at that experience for your consumer or for your customer to be as easy and as painless and as simple as possible. And then think about those things that are resonating and those concerns that they may have in the background. Yeah, so around hygiene, so around lack of crowd, so around being able to plan in advance. And the third thing is to absolutely focus on the demand and this wave of local yeah, and make sure that your messaging is resonating with that local opportunity.
The question coming through here, what does your platform cost and do you charge a commission on sales?
Yeah, so the platform, the pricing is really uber transparent. Okay, there's 3 tiers of subscriptions starting at a mere €19 a month. Okay, and then there's a sliding commission on that sale. Average commission is circa around 2%. And the flexibility of merchants being able to move from one model to the other as their business develops or as their business needs change, I think is also one of the USPs. I think it's also critical to call out. There's 2 things that are critical to call out. First of all is the sort of customer-centric hand-holding service or support that we provide. Again, acknowledging the fact that our merchants are business people. They're not people building sites, right? So it's really important that our team is able to help and walk you through any of those bottlenecks to make sure that it's as easy and simple as possible. It is one thing that I really would call out. And then that transparency and that simplicity in terms of pricing point.
Then a question coming through from someone saying, I'm working from home, what would work for me? So that's probably a question around, do you have any, if you like to call them professional service providers that already use your platform? Do you have any specific solutions for them as well, or any advice?
Yeah, my simple advice is drop me a line, give me a call, and let me see how we can help.
Perfect, perfect. That's excellent.
And I'd say that to everybody, literally, to see if there's a fit and if we can make it work. We'd love to see how we could support.
Brilliant, brilliant. John, that was really hugely helpful and insightful. Let me, at this stage, bring in Joseph Costello. Joseph owns management and property companies. And geez, Joseph, you mentioned it in our pre-chat as well, and looking at your website. You really have come a long way since leaving school at the age of 15 with what you say, no formal qualification. But what you're saying now is really you've lived, or you're living the life that you wanted and you set out to achieve. You're a business coach now, you're a mentor, and you're specialized in the power of mindset and the power of transforming your business, but also looking at your own personal well-being. Joe, for you, business success starts with goal setting and thinking differently. Can you explain that?
So yeah, so I suppose if we don't have a goal in life, it's like we can drive out of our driveway in the morning, and where are we going to go? Are we going to go left? Are we going to go right? And I believe goal setting is vital. And it's a vital component for success in any business. And the one thing that I teach as part of my mentoring program is the importance of goal setting and having something tangible to work towards, because especially in today's world and how things are and how important that we need to keep moving forward and focused on what it is that we want. So one of the things that I teach, a lot of people say a goal is to get. Well, I say a goal is to grow. And when you grow as an individual inside of you, you know, people think a goal is to, you know, build a business, have a bigger house, have a bigger car, you know, do all these things. But when you actually work on you as an individual and you grow within your mindset, all these is a byproduct of your, you know, your achievements within inside of you. So one of the things all great leaders could only ever agree on is we become what we think. And science and theology now proves that we become what we think. So if we're going through life and we're not thinking what we want to think, or we don't have the proper goal in place, well then, you know, we're going to end up going around in circles, or, you know, hitting the dead ends and going over the speed bumps.
And can you give us an example of a goal? What would be a right goal be, or is there a distinction between a professional goal and a personal goal? A personal goal being, I want to learn or want to become fluent in French. or a business goal. I want to double my revenue in the next 12 months. Are these the goals that you're talking about, or are you talking about different goals?
We break it down into 3 types of goals. We have an A-type goal. So an A-type goal would be, you have a car. So if someone came to me there, Paul came to me there a few months ago, and he was driving a 2016 Range Rover, and he says he wanted a new Range Rover. And I asked him, how long have you got the Range Rover? And he says, well, I have it 4 years. And there's no real growth in that because you've already achieved that. So a B-type goal would be sort of knowing that if you put 1 or 2 things in place and you bring in the infrastructure that you can achieve that. So I go way out there and I say a C-type goal. So a C-type goal is all your wants, because we have a goal-seeking success mechanism built inside of us. The problem is that we're going through life and we're setting the wrong goals. And by us setting the wrong goals, we believe that we can, grow the business by 5, 7, 10, 15%. And even what John was saying there in the online market, that, the experience 5 years growth in the last 6 months, there's different people before the epidemic was experiencing 5 years growth within 6 months. So why wait for a state of pain and suffering to change when you can change in a state of joy and inspiration? So these already exist. So everything that we want in life already exists in life. We just have to create that goal and take the actionable steps towards what it is that we actually want.
So if I'm hearing this right, so if we have the right mindset for business transformation and success, if we have the right goals, does it mean then automatically that we can overcome all of the practical obstacles that so many small businesses face and can literally rebuild or reimagine themselves?
So I think, the right mindset is huge, because even through these difficult times, there is opportunity. So we need to maintain a competitive edge, and creativity is huge within this, but we also need to reinvent ourselves when it's required. So like so many businesses having to review their strategy. So how many people is on the call here today, and what John is talking about putting their business online, is very relevant to them. So that's a shift in your mindset. So there's a shift in the mindset now to have to bring your business online, and John is here to help you, get rid of all these difficult things, because I'm not very technical, and one thing that I don't want to do is know anything, to be technically minded. So I'd rather go to someone like John and I'd say I want to get A and B, and John gives me a price and I do it. But the mind is like a machine, and it's very similar to that. So you're the operator of the machine. So if the mind is a machine, I think it makes sense for us to understand how to operate it better. And we're talking about behavior. So us as human beings, what we are is we're repetitive creatures. And John is saying that they're able to analyze the data, and when they get the data, then they're able to, implement that into the system that they're building. So we need to look at our self-image inside of us. And we all have a self-image, and we talk about the mind, but I'm going to break it down a little bit more. And your self-image inside of you is like a thermostat. And that thermostat is set. And, if that thermostat in my room is set at 22 degrees, if I open the window, the temperature might, drop a little bit. Where if it's sunny out, a bit of sun might come in and the temperature might go up a bit. And we have this set unconsciously, and we don't even realize that we've inherited a little bit of mom, a little bit of dad. We do what they do. We do what our society tells us to do. And this thermostat is going to, dictate our decisions, our behaviors, our relationships, our bank balance, our work-life balance. And we need to change that. We need to look at that. And until you change that inner thermostat, that inner image of you, you're just going to keep producing the same results, plus or minus 10%. And that's why some people in these circumstances is hugely you know, growing their business when other people isn't.
Just going back to the harsh reality of we're in the third lockdown, 3 months into the third lockdown now. COVID has been a serious knockback. Everybody has been impacted in one way or other by it. Our families are suffering. Is there a bright side to it? What are there any techniques that can help you out of this?
Well, I suppose there's good and bad in everything. And where we put our attention is where we put our energy. And I'm not going to sit here and turn around and say that, you know, it hasn't been challenging for an awful lot of people, but there's, you know, there's good and bad in everything. So if it's very bad, it can be very good. If it's only a little bit bad, it can be a little bit good. So one of the things that I teach is called the law of polarity. So there's a bright side and there's a dark side to everything. And in this, so when we look at COVID is after keeping so many people apart, but it's after bringing so many people together. And when we look at shopping local, there's an awful lot more, although businesses are suffering in some areas. When we come out of this, there's going to be a behavioral change that they're going to, you know, start following brands. So there is good and bad in everything. And through every, you know, recession or economic downturn, or, you know, I know this is an epidemic, which probably we didn't have before, but this is the biggest transfer of wealth that can happen within this time. This is the biggest time that we can actually look at ourselves as an individual, have more time to look at it. And when you start concentrating on the inner you, so everything we achieve in life is a direct reflection of how we're thinking inside. So this is the time to go inside and look at what it is that you're doing in life, because your outer results is a direct reflection of what you're thinking internally.
So if we look ahead now, so hopefully by late May, early June, some of the so-called non-essential retailers will be able to reopen again, and obviously we are all cocooned in a way, and we have to be closed. We're in this mindset trying to endure this, but when we are opening the business again, we might be looking at some of the negatives, like, ooh, how am I going to be able to make up for the lost income? I'm not sure how I can talk to the landlord about the rent. How can you get from a somewhat negative mindset into something positive and something that will help drive you?
So if we're defined by the memories of the past, it's going to make our future predictable. So we can end up like the hamster on the wheel. And I know a lot of us is going to have more challenges than others. Some landlords will be, you know, will give people relief. Some landlords won't. And each case is individual, but we have to sort of start asking ourselves the question, and this boils back to a goal, is what do you want out of life at this current time? Because the past is the past and there's no such thing as the future, because there's only now, in this current moment now, that I can create my future. So we have to try and come up with a plan now of that goal. Okay, so I am where I am. Today is the 25th of March or whatever day that your industry is going to open. And that's where you are, and create that goal on that day and try and move forward from there.
And finally, Joe, if there was one single thing a business person must learn or practice in order to achieve what they want, what would that be? What would you say?
Well, it's resilience and action. So it's one of the things that I try and, you know, teach my clients is that, you know, we need to reinvent ourselves internally. We need to be open to change and embrace change. So if we're not in an epidemic even now, and someone meets me, I turn around and say, I'm asking you to be open to what I say. What I'm teaching you isn't taught in school. teach, our school is more, you know, trying to teach you about the known doing. You read the book, you memorize the book, you get it right. But that doesn't mean that you're good. That's not going to teach you how to be, you know, make decisions. That's not going to teach you persistence. And now is the time, if you can be persistent and you can keep moving forward, these are the people that's really going to thrive. So a lot of people would say that I'm a positive thinker, and I'd say, yes, well, you know, I'm quite positive, but I like to think I have an element of faith. So what's faith? Well, faith is to see the invisible, believe in the incredible, and achieve what the masses think is the impossible. But I'm aware of what's going on in the world. I'm optimistic. And optimism is like when you're in a dark tunnel. And when you're in that dark tunnel, you can see the glimmer of light at that end of that tunnel. And I'm going to focus on that glimmer of light. I don't know how long it's going to take me to get to the end of that tunnel. I don't know how far it is. But as long as I keep focusing on that, and as long as we keep focusing on what it is that we want, they're the people that's really going to thrive. They're the people that's going to work internally, which is going to change their outer results.
Thank you, Joseph. Maybe just to bring John in again at the end of our session today. John, in our pre-chat, you talked about your really colorful and successful career as an entrepreneur. You've set up businesses. You're within the startup community. You've worked for multinationals, and you're back into a smaller business now. What motivated you, or what drove you to success ultimately?
Yeah, I mean, I think Joseph hit it on the head. You know, I think there's two things. I think first of all, that resilience. And if I had one wish for, you know, for kids growing up, it's to try and build that resilience. And I think that trying to define those goals, and I think that, you know, Joseph alluded to the fact that the goals, everyone has their own goals, yeah. And then my final thing is to find some passion point. I think you've got to love what you're doing, and you've got to sort of believe in what you're doing. Does that? I think that setting goals and loving things are really important.
I think that's shown through both of your presentations today, John and Joseph. So thank you so much for your time and for sharing your knowledge and your wisdom with us this morning. This is all that we have time for on this month's Champion Green webinar, Changes in the Air. To quote Sam Cooke, it's been a long time coming, but I know change is going to come. So there is hope. Can I remind everyone that the new local marketing toolkit is now available for download on the Champion Green website. So simply go to championgreen.ie, which is being regularly updated as well for advice, inspiration, and resources. I know that we have some exciting plans for our webinars in the month of April, so do look out for our newsletters and announcements. And thank you everyone for joining us this morning. Thanks again to our excellent panel, Joe and John, and we'll see you again next month. And in the meantime, stay safe, stay in touch, and happy Easter.
Thanks very much. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, guys.